Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and this is my review of Star Trek Generations, a a movie that took me a week to watch, and it's the reason I'm slurring right now. So I've never been a big drinker, years without drinking at all, and now maybe, I don't know, 3 times a month. But one of the things I do is I like to watch Star Trek TV shows and movies when I just drink on my couch and relax. For some reason, Star Trek pairs very well with whiskey. But this movie, I think it took me 4 nights in a row, and I kept drinking very quickly, and then I would basically fall asleep and then have to, go find my spot the next night. So this is a weird one because, when you see a movie not in a couple decades, usually that's, this is better than I remember, this is worse than I remember, this is just as good as I remember, and it was all of those things. I will say, for the first hour, it really isn't that bad. It is by no means good, even compared to all of the previous Star Trek movies at that time, but it doesn't earn that reaction of like, what the hell is Star Trek? Oh, that's terrible. When it came out, I remember it was, a solid baseline hit. That was the secret of Star Trek, is that they knew it had a limited appeal, so they would limit the budget, and then they were kind of always successful. You might not be a big fan of the Underworld franchise, but they had an uncanny ability to guess the ultimate box office of every script and then adjust accordingly. So they were all profitable. And it might surprise you which ones were more profitable than others. It's not necessarily the better ones. So the deal with Star Trek Generations is that it starts off okay, and then it gets worse and worse and worse and worse until you're not even like angry at it. You just this is the worst insult. You're not even angry because you feel bad for the people in it. At least you feel bad for the actors who you've grown to like over 7 seasons of Next Generation TV show. So the story is about Soran, a race of very long-lived humanoids whose family is killed, and he wants to meet them again in the Nexus, which is basically lucid dreaming the dimension. There's this ribbon that moves through the universe, and if you go into it, you go into the Nexus, where you basically get all your dreams to come true. So he's, if I remember correctly, blowing up a star to steer it towards a planet so that the ribbon will go over the planet. I forget why the ribbon's gonna steer around this exploding star, or maybe it was a signal, I forget. And then he's gonna stand on a gantry, and then that will put him into the Nexus. The gantry is about 15 feet above the rocks that it's built into. It's not any particular spot, really. And you might be asking a lot of questions, and that's what happens. It starts off really basic, and by the end you're just like, all I just feel is pity for all of the actors. It gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Now this is the movie where everyone remembers, there's kind of a Mandela effect where people remember the crews from Next Gen and the original series meeting. That does not remotely happen. It's just the captains, and I'm not kidding you. We get a little scene with Kirk, and then he's gone for more than an hour, and then he pops back in, and he meets Picard with 28 minutes left in the movie. And then you spend 8 to 10 minutes just trying to convince him to help. And then what he needed the help... Oh, there's so many stupid things. Now, I've listened to the Mike Stacklasa, Red Letter Media, Half in the Bag. I believe that was his first video from 12, 15 years ago. I've listened to so many times. I have to say, I don't think he was angry enough. None of this story makes sense. So at one point, the Enterprise crashes because a decloak Klingon bird of prey shoots it at a spot, and there's a reactor. It's very fragile. And then it crashes because they can't figure out to do anything but crash. They're near a planet, and the engines on the saucer section can't escape the gravity of a planet. Seems like a design flaw. So it crashes, and then they get to do a redo. So Picard goes into the Nexus, and he has a family, which I can't believe Mike didn't hammer on this more, because he hammered on it in Picard that Picard doesn't like kids. They repeatedly point that out in the series. He doesn't like them. So apparently his dream was not only to have a family, but to have some weird, like, Little House on the Prairie family. You gotta see them. You gotta see the way they dress and their hair curls and the way they talk. Like, it's a very particular. Yeah. Okay, we'll just go with it. Movies are different. So Picard is actually a lot different than TV show Picard. So then he gets he's Guinan is there. She's there and she's not there. She's in a couple different places. I always thought Guinan was like a Q. But I guess she's not. I guess I'm actually really not sure what she was. I thought she was super powerful, like a member of the Q race, but I don't even know what she is. So she's in the ribbon, but she's also not in the ribbon. And then she tells him how to escape. She says, "You can go anywhere you want to be." And he goes, "I know exactly the place, Viridian 3." And it's like a man in his 50s getting a fist fight with another man in his 50s and saying, "I know what will solve this situation. I need a man in his 60s to help me, an overweight man in his 60s." Because again, Kirk is not called for any reason than to be a guy who can get in some really awkward fist fights. Picard does not say, "Send me back X amount of days to when Soren was first taken on the ship." He doesn't say this. He says, like, right before he launches the rocket, "Send me that back right there." I'm just doing that thing where you just wave your hands like you can't even, because I can't even. So bad. So was the critiques of Mike's Teclasa, ruining my experience? Because when I saw it in the theaters, I saw it multiple times. I used to see all those Star Trek movies multiple times. And so, a couple years after I got my car, I'd see anything with special effects or action, I'd see it. That one Steven Seagal movie where he wore a beret to hide his hair plugs were growing in, I saw that. I saw everything. But would I have disliked it as much? I don't know. I don't know. But I know it was really excruciating. But like I said, the first hour is just kind of generic sci-fi things. It would be like a really okay-ish, like, 5th season episode, or stretched out a little bit. The main thing I kept noticing is because I was getting bored, so I was like looking up things on IMDb. I remember when I watched it, I was like, everyone is so old, and except for Picard, everyone is younger than I am now, just by like a year. But I remember like Data is like, oh, he looks really old. I think he lost weight before the second one. He's pretty chunky. They got all the emotion ship stuff, and it's honestly, that part was not that bad. It was just the plot was like so freaking stupid. That being said, Malcolm McDowell's Soren is a surprisingly effective protagonist. I think one of the reasons is that he gets that great line, "Time is the fire in which we burn," and he gives a great delivery, and he kind of looks cool, and he's like the only person besides Picard who's in any kind of shape that's not pear-shaped, and he's very, very, like, he convinces. I feel like I'm not using that word. He commits to that 100%. Like, this is a great plan, and this is a great movie. And then I looked, and Malcolm McDowell hadn't been in anything good almost 10 years before that movie, and not in any good stuff for ever, basically. So yeah, that was his, whatever he was, like 53. And that was like his big, he knew he was going to get all the interviews and all that type of stuff. So he was very excited, and that comes through at the ending. And then they do the time loop thing, but they don't even save the Enterprise. Like, it still crashes. And then Picard's not even mad. He's like, I have a feeling there'll be another ship called the Enterprise. Oh, really? Oh, don't give me that a feeling. But overall, I've done this for all these Star Trek movies, especially like the original cast, and I remember thinking when I saw them when I was a kid, I didn't like a lot of them, and they all kind of held up in one. You can say Star Trek V was terrible, but that speech that Kirk gives with Sybok, he's like, I need my pain. That one. I've listened to that one literally 50 times. I found some YouTube video. He's like, what did he say? I should have gone left when I should have gone right. I know my weaknesses. I don't need this. What does he call him? Sideshow Carney Barker or whatever he calls him. It's great. It's a great performance. It's a great scene. There's actually multiple scenes with Sybok. Those are usually quite good. No, there's nothing to salvage here besides Soran being having a cool look. He's got a cool gun, and a good performance, but it's awful. It's so bad. I think this might have been the worst movie I rewatched, and it's I can't take this movie. I think one of those nights I watched 10 minutes. Couldn't take it. But anyway, I'm going to go see Bloodshot right now. I think I'll be reviewing that on my main channel for a couple reasons. Number one, it is based on a comic, but also it's Valiant has had several phases of development and different owners, but this Bloodshot is the culmination of 5 years of really concentrating on getting a movie and betting everything on it, and actually kind of losing the company. The founder of the latest version got bought out by the Chinese, or they bought out, but then he got kicked out, but he's still the producer. It's crazy. So I'll review that one on my other channel. Thanks for watching. Bye.